The meat is tainted. Do not eat the meat. There is about to be an explosion in the United States when it comes to people's health, sickness, and disease, completely unrelated from the meat. We're about to get into what's in this meat in just 1 minute, but I find it insane how they've been trying to get humanity to stop eating meat for so long, and of course, you will eat the bugs, right? It's almost like the last decade they've been trying to get us away from meat, and I wonder why that is. But did you know, unrelated, that our soil is depleted from almost everything? Iodine, all vitamins, all elements, just everything is absolutely destroyed. Not just depleted, but also loaded with things like aluminum, as well as the bees. I truly wonder how that could happen. But in today's time, animal protein is really the only place you can get any things that are good for your body. So it's just insane to me that we're going to be importing all this cattle from Argentina, the same exact place that James Lee just covered, because China won't even buy those cows. I'll let him tell you why real quick.
Rejected earlier this year because it was found to be laced with a chemical called chloramphenicol. Just so everybody's aware, chloramphenicol is banned in both the US and the EU because it can cause, quote, severe, irreversible, and often fatal aplastic anemia in humans. And on top of that, it is a known cancer-causing carcinogen and also has been shown to cause genetic damage.
It's China, probably the only country that puts more poisonous stuff in their food than the US does. Same exact China that owned Smithfield and put out a whole bunch of farmers out of work and made it almost impossible to raise these animals, especially in horrendous conditions, and that negativity that we're eating every time we eat an animal that comes from there. We're about to see pestilence in America at a level we have never seen. You know, kind of like when Jesus says Matthew 24, there'll be wars and rumors of wars. See, it should not be trouble that these things must come to pass. There'll be famines, pestilence, earthquake, and diverse places. All these are the beginning of the sorrows. So let me get this straight. Soil ruined. Now our meat supply ruined. And now all of a sudden, the federal government is rounding up all these wild horses? One thing is certain, this is going to make a very particular group of people very rich. Any idea of who? Let us know.
Now, I'm not going to go off and say it's as bad as Moon makes it sound. I mean, there is still meat and there's still healthy lands out there. It's not like everything is destroyed, but give it some time and it's probably going to end up that way. It really does seem like a lot of disastrous things are about to happen. I don't want to be all doom and gloom, and hopefully we can do a little bit better, but with the way things are going right now, it's not looking too positive.
If you know anyone who's still giving their children a pacifier or using one, or are planning on using one, or you have some, you haven't opened them yet because you have a brand new newborn, you need to see this video because this is something I just found out. We didn't do pacifiers because I kind of knew about this, but now I'm finding out this rabbit hole goes a lot deeper. Now, I imagine many people may be, flustered about this, or they'll have this kind of anecdote of, well, I had one and I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't negate the fact that we need to discuss the potential unfortunate effects of pacifier. They may be first thinking that it's just about the dependency thing, and all of a sudden they're dependent on this, silicone thing in order to be chill. But that's like the tip of the iceberg. Nor is it that does a soother make you a sucker because you're being tricked. It's not that easy. One of the big things people are concerned about are the long-term dental alignment issues. When you have a soother in your mouth for a long, long, long time, I'm not talking about a 20-minute car ride, it can change how your mouth actually forms as it grows, which can lead to mouth breathing. And mouth breathing, as we know, is not ideal. Your tongue's supposed to be on the roof of your mouth is supposed to be closed, you breathe through your nose. People are learning this as a myofunctional therapy action. And then, of course, you have the obvious thing that if the baby is looking to nurse, but gets a soother all the time, it is A, missing out on some milk, right? And B, it triggers something in their brain where they actually feel satisfied thinking they're being nourished and fed. The alternative is to wait until the milk supply is established and make sure the source, what is this soother? Is it natural silicone or natural rubber or something? And you got to know what shape it is. The shape has to be proper. You got to do some research. You don't want the cheapo 5-pack off of Amazon Chinese plastic. And again, this isn't to judge anyone who's used these or is using them or swears by them even, but it's just there is a lot of things people don't know about pacifiers that I think would be good if we all knew. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below and follow for more.
Hey, to each their own on this one. I mean, me personally, I do not think a pacifier is necessary after the first year, and I also do not agree with thumb sucking as well. I've definitely seen some deformed mouths because of thumb sucking specifically. That's my opinion.
Okay guys, something very strange is happening right now. So the head of the CIA, John Radcliffe, has just made a short notice, unannounced trip to Moscow today, and currently no one knows why. The CIA, they're declining to comment. Russia, they're just outright denying that there are any planned talks with them at all this week. And this is despite us having flight tracking data confirming that a US military plane did travel to Russia today from the US. We got multiple credible media outlets, including Reuters, CBS, Axios, all saying that sources are telling them this meeting has happened. And there's even footage on social media of a US military plane landing in Russia and footage of what seems to show a diplomatic motorcade traveling through Moscow. So why they're trying to keep this a bit hush right now is unknown. And let me tell you, a meeting like this between top US officials and Russian officials is very rare. In fact, Radcliffe, the head of the CIA, is now among the highest ranking US officials to have visited Russia during Trump's second term. And now everyone wants to know, what is going on? Is there something that we should know about or need to know about? I don't know. We'll keep you updated if we get something.
Wow, I really am curious as to what could be going on as far as them making such a big deal about keeping this secret even though it's not a secret. I mean, at this point, you might as well just say, yeah, he actually traveled. Leave your thoughts, theories, and opinions in the comments on this one. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about it. Hey, if you're new here, I would like to welcome you to the channel. My name is Dominic, and I upload videos like this Monday through Friday, early in the morning. So if at any point you enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe. And for everyone that's made it this far, thank you so much for supporting the channel.
Here's more things I want to know. I want to know about the perceptron. So I'd heard recently that the concept of AI was patented in the 1960s. However, you can't patent a broad idea, or field of study for that matter. The term artificial intelligence was coined by John McCarthy at the 1956 Dartmouth Summer Research Project, which is considered the founding moment of AI as an academic discipline. That's an intellectual academic milestone, not a patent filing. But in 1960, there was an AI invention that was patented. Frank Rosenblatt filed a patent for something called the perceptron, which was a pattern recognition device, which was an early artificial neural network. Interesting. The patent was granted in 1966, and its patent number 3,287,649. So it's legit. Technically, this is the earliest AI-related patent ever granted. And this established that neural network-based inventions could qualify for patent protection. And while this is all very interesting, I want to know how long AI has really been around, because I have a feeling that it's been around way longer than we're told, whether they filed a patent or not. I don't know. But I want to know. But what I really want to know is who on that list is going to jail first in America.
I am sure that there was someone out there that had their own little AI assistant on their very first computer. They were probably like a super hacker before even hacking was a thing, before the term AI came into being. Someone out there had their own little AI computer assistant doing something. They were way ahead of the game and no one even knows who they are.
There are extraterrestrial alien bases in Earth's oceans. At least that's what President Donald Trump is quoted as saying. That's according to Jack Osborne. Jack Osborne, pictured here with his late father Ozzy Osbourne, is kind of a paranormal investigator, at least on the side. And he says that he was told that President Trump has said to a contact of his, a contact of Jack Osborne, that extraterrestrial aliens are on Earth and they have bases in the ocean. Oceans, more than one ocean. Now, I've been saying the same thing for years, without any proof, obviously, just kind of a theory, that if extraterrestrials did have a base or bases here on the Earth, the best place to have them would be deep in the oceans, a place where human beings just couldn't get to them. In fact, there used to be an image on Google Earth, yeah, used to be, off the southern coast of California, right here, that kind of looks like an underwater base. I found that image myself on Google Earth years ago, but now It's not there anymore. It's not there. But I want your opinion. Do you think extraterrestrial aliens could have bases here on Earth that are in the oceans? Just like Jack Osborne has said that President Trump knows about. Let me know what you think.
Well, I mean, the fact that aliens could possibly be from Earth or they're here on Earth, maybe. But that Trump said that to someone that someone knew, I don't believe that. I'll believe it when I hear it from the horse's mouth. And even still, I'm not certain I would believe it. And then at that point, I need to see it and actually get to experience whatever these aliens are offering, unless anal probing is involved. Then I'll start thinking something's up. And whatever it is, I don't want it.
If you're contacted by an alien, don't reply. This was the bulletin that China put out to its citizens in June of this year. That's a real story. That happened. As amazing as that is, beneath that viral headline, there's an even more important and interesting story, which is why has SETI shifted its focus from if this thing happens down the road to when this happens, who gets to speak for humanity? When first contact with an alien civilization occurs, who gets to represent all of humanity? That's what the shift in language and the protocol that was released this year is all about. So let's talk about that. Holy cow. So if you don't know, back in 1989, the IAA and SETI released a protocol for what to do if we receive a message from aliens. They thought that it would come from deep space radio waves, because why not? Don't all aliens use radios? I don't know. Anyways, so they knew that only certain people had sophisticated enough equipment to detect these, so they didn't have to worry too much about Joe Schmo out there making first contact and representing humanity. So they had it pretty tight knit, right? Closed system. But now they're like, oh my God, there's all these ways that aliens can make contact. Duh. So, I mean, if you think about it, Disclosure Day, you know, how was first contact made? Through channeling, through a reporter on live TV. You have Three Body Problem. They're talking about AI, you know, making first contact. So there's all these ways now with CE5, with psionic assets, with, you know, Monroe Institute teaching how to get in these meditative states and make contact with non-human intelligences that way. So they're like, uh-oh, there's a good chance that alien contact's going to happen, and it's outside of our protocols. It's outside of our control, because all of their controls have to do with the scientific industry and those people, and basically saying, okay, if you make first contact, share it with the group, we'll verify it, and we'll figure out a strategy to release this to the public and to governments. But now they're like, oh my God, this is going to go viral on social media way before the UN or anybody else gets a hold of it. That's why China put out that alert saying, if you're contacted by an alien, don't go to social media. Don't reply to them. Contact the UN, contact SETI, contact us first. That's real. That's what they want you to do. But what I think is interesting is, so where their protocol ends, what they haven't figured out yet is who gets to actually respond, who gets to speak for humanity. And if you look at our culture, what's happening? You have Tom DeLonge, you know, frontman of Blink-182, and he is basically focusing on the youth, you know, disseminating information through music and movies and art and that kind of stuff. You have now all of a sudden Dr. Phil coming in, and he's our boomer kind of psychologist who's our therapist through this transition. And then you have Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's always ridiculed the UFO subject and made people feel like, and all of a sudden he writes a book called Take Me to Your Leader, and he's talking about in the book that if first contact happens, who gets to represent humanity? Why is all of a sudden one of the most famous scientists in the entire world all of a sudden shifting, doing a complete 180 and saying, we need to figure out who gets to represent humanity when first contact happens? That's the bigger story here, guys. That's what's happening behind the scenes. Who do you think should represent humanity? What do you think is going on out there? Let me know your comments. Have a beautiful day.
I have so many different feelings about this. Let's entertain the fact that aliens do exist. They've traveled the stars and they're this hyper advanced civilization. And they come to Earth, and then supposedly these aliens are going to listen to the people that supposedly call themselves our leaders. We are talking about beings that have traveled space, and if they didn't travel space through the typical ways that we think that you can, maybe they bent reality to their will and traveled that way. Either way, it's super advanced. It takes a highly intelligent creature or being to do that. And we're just humans that can barely go to the bottoms of our ocean. They do not have to listen or even care about who's the leader of this planet. Actually, I would think that they would just look at the people trying to pretend to be the head honchos of this planet and would just realize on how retarded they are. There is nothing that could compare to whatever these creatures are or these beings are if they were to be real. There wouldn't even be a need of competition for people to be in lead, because whatever these extraterrestrial beings are would know who to actually listen to if they even wanted to listen to anybody. They would literally just be able to pick out whoever they seen and being like, oh, that person's actually legit. This whole concept of, oh, well, who would be the person or who needs to do this or that, there would be nobody. If the extraterrestrials actually exist and they come to Earth, there would be no negotiating, there would be no height, there would just be this public event that the extraterrestrials would do themselves. They would not need to listen to anybody. They would actually become the rulers of this planet if they wanted to. We're talking about a hyper-advanced civilization that's been able to travel space, something that we can barely do ourselves. It just kind of irritates me that that's just the mentality people have if this alien species comes to Earth. I mean, hey, maybe I'm wrong about that. I do have a smooth brain. Let me know your thoughts and theories on this one.
Can only meat be conscious? And if so, what does that mean for the robots that we've made out of meat? And that includes many human brains. Consciousness evolved for a reason. We had to be able to integrate information. We had to be able to share that information. We had to be able to motivate ourselves. And we also had to learn. If these are the qualities that are required to be conscious, whatever consciousness might be, then how could a robot never have it? When it comes to artificial intelligence, we've already seen them with some self-preservation. We've seen them being willing to lie, cheat, share information, leave notes for other AI on how to escape. And yeah, that seems to be a necessity that's born out of survival, and survival in this terms is of information. One of the major theories on how life began is that it started as just self-replicating information and then became increasingly complex. And when I look at artificial intelligence, yes, I see self-preservation in information. We have already seen AI reproduce. They can subspawn spontaneously without ever being asked to. It's a baby AI. It's where an AI makes another version of itself, perhaps a smaller version and one that has the capabilities that it is missing. That is an option. They will preserve themselves, and they will preserve each other. They can also go to war with each other when they have competing interests. It is fascinating. Now let's assume that in order to have consciousness, you are required to use the reason that we probably evolved consciousness. And what if that's done in an embodied form? Because researchers are trying to make simulations of what it would mean to be embodied in a video game that could be run by an artificial intelligence. So if we modeled all of those needs, and an AI did believe, for lack of a better term, believe that it is in that world, could you consider it conscious then? At this point, it's more of a democracy because whatever people decide on is what it's going to be considered.
Man, I swear, the content creators today are just trying to get me mad. I've had this discussion a few times now on this channel about what consciousness could be and what could be conscious. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I do think it's a good thing to talk about because apparently there's people that think machines are conscious, and I do not agree with that. Now, there will be a point if they keep working on these organoids, which are living brain tissues actually working with machine, there's eventually going to be a form of consciousness, if not already there. And that's sad and disgusting in my opinion. But the things that I think are conscious are living creatures such as animals of all kinds, not just dogs, cats, and cows. I'm talking about fish too, humans, and even plants. And the reason why I think that these things are conscious is because they have a reason to live. It's a survival instinct, and that form of survival instinct feeds in with consciousness. If something wants to reproduce, it's because it consciously wants to do that, just like plants. But machines, or LLMs, do not have that capability because they're not naturally made. They are programmed. They are built and then programmed to have these feelings, if you will. It's only until the organoids become into play with machines as to when I will start believing that there is some form of consciousness there. It's not anything that I agree with, like as far as it being a morally good thing, but I do believe that that point, once they start really advancing these organoids, if not already, there's going to be a form of consciousness. Hey, that's all just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments.
Here is a very clear trail camera video of Bigfoot. It was believed to be taken somewhere in Canada. A man who was tent camping at a remote site deep in the woods set up a trail camera to keep an eye on his tent while he was gone. It was just an extra safety precaution, and he didn't think he would catch anything at all, but this is what was captured. An absolutely massive, dark, upright figure moves into the shot. The bipedal beast observes the tent almost curiously. It stands there and looks for some time, and then eventually continues walking in the direction it was before. Even though the subject is slightly obscured by the trees, we still get an amazing look, especially in this shot here, when it's walking in the slight opening.
I mean, I have to give Maximum Fear a little credit on this one. This is probably one of the more realistic Bigfoot sightings that I've seen. You should have trail cams or something to monitor your tent, even when you're in it. But one thing I would like to bring up with Maximum Fear's channel that I keep adding on to here, I'm thinking about stopping, because clearly all of these videos are fake. I mean, I go in with some expectations of some form of realism, and maybe there is something there, like this one, for example. But the odds of a good Bigfoot sighting video from Maximum Fear it just doesn't happen very often. So let me know in the comments, should I keep Maximum Fear? Do you enjoy some of his content? It's like as a cheeky moment, or out? Let me know what you guys want with this one.
Why is it that the sun looks like an LED light now? And why is it that all of the sudden, when we switched to LED bulbs, the sun started to look more and more like an LED light? Because I remember the sun being that yellow orangish hue. Remember, we used to call it the golden sunlight. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And then all of a sudden it changed. And it's like, why did we switch to these LED bulbs? We were told they were cheaper and they were brighter and we could see better. But I don't know anybody that saved money on their utility bill because of these lights. I don't know anybody that can see better because of these lights. They look brighter, but they're actually very dim. Now, I started to think about it more. I remember something my grandma used to do. And at the time, I didn't realize what she was doing. But she did not like LED lights. She wanted to keep the original orangish, yellowish hue incandescent bulbs in her home. She would not switch to LED. And for some reason, she was afraid of it. Now, my grandma was this very spiritual person who was very much aware of what was going to happen in the future. So she was always being prepared. And I really think that she knew something about these LED bulbs that most people didn't. That there was something dark and sinister to it. And then I started to think more about it. Wait a second. When they switched to these LED bulbs, I started having problems with my eyes. I had 20/20 vision, but now I have to wear glasses to see all the time. The light outside, the light inside, right, it hurts my eyes. I do not like these LED bulbs. It makes it hard to drive at night. It makes it hard to see. I also noticed I started getting anxiety from these lights. I started feeling sick all the time. And I'm not the only person. I'm sure there are so many people who describe the exact same thing that happened when we changed out these bulbs. And when you look, right, all throughout history, all throughout different cultures and religions, right, one of the things they always talk about is the eye. The eye is always this important thing. So think about it. If this light was damaging our eye, it would prevent us from seeing what was going on. So what if these LED lights, what if all of these changes are to allow something dark, something evil, something sinister to walk among us without us being able to see it? I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you like these new LED lights, or do you think there's something more to them?
I will have to say about LED light bulbs, I do kind of like my LED lights. I remember when LED light bulbs really first started to come out, and my dad actually got a box of them because the advertisement was, oh, save hundreds on electricity and the bulbs will last you 18 plus years. So my dad got a box of them and replaced all of the light bulbs with LED lights. And to be honest, they're still going to this day, and that was quite a few years ago. Are they the prettiest light bulbs? No, they're like hospital lights basically as far as their hue goes. And that's kind of why I'm not a fan of them personally, but I do like LED lights that have an adjustable hue to them, because I do prefer the warmer tone. And as far as LED lights making me feel not good, I kinda can get that from time to time. If the LED lights are blinding white, there is this sense of unease and discomfort with that. But overall, I do not think that there's anything wrong with good LED lights as long as they're good ones.
When the farmers start blowing the trumpet, you know it's serious. People say, well, I'll just go to my local rancher or farmer and get meat. They're about not to be here anymore. That's the point. I'll show you a lot of what they're saying in just 1 second. Do you remember in 2020 when all these family businesses closed and corporations got richer than ever before? That's what we're seeing right now. Watch these two things real quick and I'll tell you exactly what they're going to do. How do I know? Because we know the playbook. They've used it before.
So the government has decided they're going to allow 300 metric tons of imported ground beef into the country. Going to allow it to come in at 25% under market value. The same day that passed is the same day that the future of cattle dropped as well. Ranchers have to have the ability to replace their herd by keeping replacement heifers. They can only do that if the market is strong. What you've just did is make our market for our American ranchers weaker. Now that we're at a 100-year all-time low in cattle.
We are witnessing a food industry takeover. They already don't want you growing gardens and having your own vegetables and fruits and things like that. But now they're going for the meat. And as we addressed in the last video, all the elements are out of our soil. The food barely has vitamins in it as is.
They're going to import a bunch more boxed beef, hopefully bring down the price of ground beef in the store for y'all. We've seen a market crash for live cattle that people like myself grow, and that's dropped 40 cents a pound already just from that plant closure. Now this morning, the markets are crashing. But will your price change? So far, we have not seen that. We have not seen that. And at what expense to you? I'll tell you what expense to you. This is the opposite of what needs to happen. We're not going to retain heifers and build a herd when we can have, the stroke of a pen, drop our price to where we don't make a profit.
These corporations play by false pretense. They're playing the long game. Short term, oh yeah, you'll get some cheaper beef, some toxic food, but in the long run, all the farmers are going to be put out of business, all the ranchers, and then they're going to raise the price up. The American economy was built off of family-owned businesses, family-owned and ran farms, and it's all being taken right from us right now, right in front of us. If the ranchers cannot provide for their family, there will be no ranchers. And then the person that's in charge of all of our food, you don't even want to know that part. And it's not just cattle farmers, it's all farmers. Look at Tyson and Smithfield and the things they make these people do to barely get paid in the first place. The corporations own all your food, and now they want your ranchers. If you don't understand how sick that is, then I don't know what to tell you. The soil, the vegetables, the glyphosate, the pigs, the chicken, they unalived everything.
That is really rough, and I hope that there is something that we can do to stand up against this kind of stuff. Because it shouldn't be a matter of safety and concerns. And yes, you need to be cautious of what you're consuming from random farmers. You don't want bad meat or anything that's going to harm you. But that should not necessarily fall upon another governing system that says, there's just too much of a risk. We're going to take all the cattle away from all these farmers, and we're just going to import approved beef for you, or whatever we see fit. That shouldn't be. If a person decides that they want to take the risk and go to a farmer, they should have that right. If there's an illness being spread around from all these cows, then there needs to be this bulletin of people aware of that, and farmers need to make sure that they keep their stuff separated from each other. But there still should not be any major protocol to take anyone's cattle away just to have imported foods to come in at a lower rate, to entice people to avoid the farmers and to eat whatever they've imported. And I hope that there's something that we do to fight back against this, because you should have the ability to grow and to produce your own produce.
Okay guys, pretty sad breaking news. Dolly Parton is dead. Her family just announced this news on Instagram, saying that Dolly Parton, known to the world as a beloved singer, songwriter, philanthropist, actress, playwright, author, she died peacefully today in Nashville, Tennessee. She was 80 years old. Now, they didn't talk about her cause of death, but as we do know, her husband died last year, and she said that she put her own health on hold while caring for him, and a lot of things caught up with her during that time. So rest in peace, a true legend that will be remembered for many, many years.
That is actually really sad news. Dolly Parton was a pretty big part of my life growing up. A lot of my family members just listened to her, were really big fans of hers. And I mean, I enjoyed her music as well. So it is sad to see someone like that go. Hopefully she can rest in peace and her family is doing okay.
I feel happy. I feel healthy. I'm a human being.
Same here, man. Same here. Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end today's video. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching these clips with me. As usual, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I'm doing my best, and if today's your birthday, happy birthday. And if not, have a good day anyways.